right, let's do this. All right. So, hey, y'all, this week, and Ducking Reality, I have my friend Ollie. What's up, Ollie?
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good. I'm a little nervous if I'm honest.
Yeah, why are you nervous?
Because we haven't talked about any of this stuff yet.
Yeah.
And that makes me a little nervous. I'm so excited and honored that you're here and that you're willing to kind of share your experience with us.
Yeah.
And to kind of have a conversation that's hard to have.
Yeah, I'm very happy to. Yeah, I'm very happy to have that with you too.
Yeah.
Can I actually start off with saying something?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
So I know that. Well, okay. I mean, I guess you were probably going to say this about an intro, but I had like a lot of years of addiction, and when you and I met, it was when I was. I honestly, like, my memory of things is not really very good during that time, unfortunately. But like, I know I was going into like my lowest point,
right?
Which of course is what got me sober. But yeah, I don't know. I know that when you and I met, it was like during that time. I know that I was really not like who I really am. It wasn't like a real like good representation of me, and I don't like. I really have very foggy like sort of like just in pieces kind of like memory of most of that time.
Yeah, I get that.
But which kind of freaks me out. There's like a lot of black holes in my memory, like in the timeline and stuff, which I just know logically that I can kind of figure when things happen in what order, but I don't actually remember it that way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And but anyway, I know that I wasn't like a good person to myself, nor to like you, or to my partner Hannah, right, or to like my family or my friends and everything. So, but yeah, I just want to apologize for that, like right off the bat.
Thank you. And also, I mean, I really understand probably more than you realize, because I have similar stuff. When I was an addict too. I mean, I was over medicated and I was kind of leaning on it. And I have things that I know happened because I have pictures of me being there, but I really don't have a recollection of it.
And that was like with painkillers, like with
opiates? I was on
opiates?
fentanyl for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And I was on a bunch of stuff like with fentanyl.
Right.
So like there are times that I was at things. Scary. Yeah, and then I was still drinking on top of it.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, and so there are things that one of my oldest friends, I went to her baby shower, and I know I was there because there's pictures and I have like the keepsakes. I have no recollection of being there.
Yeah, it's freaky.
And it's like I've gone to a couple of people in my life and been like, "Hey, can you help me figure out my timeline of that like phase?" Right. Because I'm like, I can't. There's black. It's like you just said. There's black holes in that I'm like unsure of. And it makes me super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard for them when I ask those questions because I don't think they knew how bad it was either.
Right.
Because sometimes when you're in it, you don't know that you're in it.
Yeah, especially when it's like a friend or like a loved one in some kind of way. It's like, like even if you're not the, I feel like my loved ones, like my friends, even when they knew, it's like they didn't always want to believe how bad maybe it actually was. And I don't know, and I see that kind of thing in other groups, like other friends and and when that happens, but of course, but for sure, like when you're the one going through it, it's like, I mean, I don't know, I had like a whole bunch of like weird like beliefs and everything, and I thought I was like really just the shit and like on top of everything at one point, and then it was weird because then at other times I like knew that I was fully addicted, yet I thought that's just how it has to be for me. And like, it's just going to be that way.
Like you weren't worthy of more?
I don't even know if it was like worthy. Well, I guess it's kind of like that. Like a thing that I really struggle with all this stuff is, or what I mean is like a big reason that I use is feelings of like, I have a hard time fully connecting or fitting in. It feels sometimes to like, I guess like mainstream society. And I tell myself that a lot more than it actually is a thing, Right. Like I tell myself that like I don't fit in with like these people kind of thing. Like I other myself like heavily. And I'm a lot better about that now, but like, because really like it does not matter at all, But I have felt that like in a lot of these different kind of like cultural groups I've been in, well, do you want me to keep going on this? Or
sure.
Do you want, okay.
Yeah.
But
please.
Yeah, so growing up first, I grew up in a really small town on the East Coast in Maryland that was extremely like conservative, like a town of, and really small, like it was a town of like 5,000.
Okay.
And that's not where either of my parents are from. I don't really know exactly why we ended up there, but my dad is fully German, like not a U.S. citizen or anything.
Oh wow,
like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like full accent and everything. But he was an alcoholic, and he was really, really abusive. And so then during my mom's American, but she's from more like the Annapolis area. And she met my dad over in Germany when she was doing like an internship for social work, because my mom was a social worker. Anyway, so I grew up in that town, but because I was like the only person that wasn't like pretty much born in like some small radius of that town, I was seen as like the German kid, even though really I was raised very American, and I sound very American, you know?
Yeah, you do. Were you born here, or were you born?
I was born there.
You were born in Germany.
Yeah, sorry, should I say that? Yeah, I was born in Germany. I was born in Würzburg, which is in Bavaria, which is the largest state in Germany, like Bavarian hops and all that, right? But I was born in the same city my dad was born and raised in.
Oh wow, okay.
So, yeah, which is like an actual city, not like a small town or whatever. But anyway, yeah, so even though I was kind of always disconnected from my German side, because that was my dad's side, and he was like not really, even when he was there in the picture, he wasn't like really present emotionally and in all those kind of ways like a father should be. So and then my parents separated, and then I was kind of back and forth between the houses. But that whole time, and that was all through middle school, but the whole time, like my peers, even though I never had like issues with bullying, or I never had like issues socially when I was a kid.
Okay.
Like I got along with everyone, but I still got like othered, even though it wasn't in like a malicious way.
Right. You just felt separated from them.
Yeah. People would like bring it up because to them, they never met anyone that wasn't from like that area of Maryland in particular. Yeah.
So you're just like an outsider from the beginning.
Yeah. And so I know that like, I know all of that kind of like feeds in, but then I knew that there was like something more that I wanted in life. So I worked really hard to get myself to college in Baltimore, but be able to make, like I started working when I was 12 to try to save up money so that I could kind of get to something else in life.
Right.
And then I used that money when I entered college to help pay for college. Plus I also worked all 4 years of college for the residential halls, doing maintenance, which is it was like a way to pay for housing all 4 years. But that also meant that I worked all the time on top of school. So, but that was like that whole environment was way different than like where I grew up. But then after that, eventually, like I kind of moved all around, moved up to New York City. Then I did some like traveling in Latin America, and then eventually came to California. Did this PhD at UC Berkeley, where it felt like a whole nother othering from like how many like trust fund kids there were there, right? You know, and I don't know, like when I started learning how much everyone just had so much money from their family coming in, because I was so confused how we were expected to live in like the San Francisco Bay Area off of this like grad student stipend of like $1,000 something a month.
Right.
And I was like, how are all these grad students not freaking out about this like I am? Turns out it's because almost all of them have like money coming in elsewhere. So it's not really a problem. And I know there's some other students that didn't, the same way I didn't, but like, I don't know, you can't help but kind of like feel, it's almost an envy, you know, because it's like I feel like I'm having to like have a way bigger hurdle just to do this financially.
You're struggling and they're like chilling.
Yeah, but then it's weird because then nowadays like I'm like so grateful for all like the struggles I've been through, and like I in a way wouldn't change that for like anything. But at the time, like I know that's what really led, that and some things that happened in my personal life really led to like me feeling just, okay, I can't handle this, so I can't keep feeling like I'm so othered, so I'm just gonna like numb myself. So because I don't want to have to stop working, so I'm gonna numb myself and try to, because that made sense to me at the time. Like I'm gonna just numb myself through working, and then doing this PhD, and I'm gonna have this PhD before the age of 30 was like my goal.
Right.
But then eventually, as I know, I had to take a medical leave of absence, and that was 4 years ago now.
Right.
And that was during my 5th year of the PhD, which really that 5th year I like didn't really get anything done because I was like using all the time. I was just high all the time,
right.
like teaching classes and everything, which was like such a shit show. But
because you are. When you went to college, like your undergrad, did you know what you were going for? Like no.
No, so I
you're
was
extremely intelligent. I just want to kind of put that out there.
you.
Like, and because I especially
it.
the last couple like week or so, you've been here more and like hanging out, and I get to hear you tutoring now, and like just hearing the stuff that you're talking about is like one, your shit, like, but you're also like great at like communicating that to your students.
Thank you.
It's been like really nice to see that side of you.
Yeah,
but I always
that's
have
awesome.
known that how smart you were or are. And
Yeah.
so I always wondered kind of how you got into your direction of schooling.
Yeah, so the PhD at UC Berkeley was in data science, like an AI. My thesis, so it's an AI applied to ecology or environmental science. So I was in the environmental science department, but my thesis is the deepening ecology with artificial intelligence. So it's all about AI, just broadly applied to ecology. But that's not a very common thing. And if you think about that I've been on break for 4 years, but then did 5 years of the PhD program, that means I started that 9 years ago,
Right.
which is, what happened. And 9 years ago, AI wasn't nearly as big as it is now, and especially not in environmental science. So it's kind of an unusual thing, and I pursued that partially because it's unusual, but it all comes back to... and I don't have a degree in like, my undergrad isn't in computer science or math or stats or any of that stuff. It's in actually biology. And I pursued biology because my dad was out of the picture like early high school. And I was really close with my mom and her mother, my maternal grandmother, who passed away while I was in undergrad. But she didn't have like passed like an elementary school education formally. But she was from like very country, like West Virginia. But she taught me a lot about birds and kind of like environmental things from not like an academic lens, like from a practical lens, right?
Yeah.
So like she taught me how to do like backyard birding and like recognize bird songs and stuff like that. And I was really inspired by that. And and then I just really wanted to pursue that kind of because she instilled that like love of nature in me. And then I think it was during my freshman year of undergrad is when she had her 2 strokes, which then led to her passing away after like a lot of months of it being really rough. And then I wanted to kind of in her memory to pursue like something even like bigger than just the degree. So
Right.
I pursued like doing research in these different labs at the undergrad campus that I was at, which was at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So anyway, which isn't like University of Maryland's like big school. It's like just another school there. So what I'm trying to say is I didn't go to like a big name school. So
Right.
that will lead later to like my feelings about UC Berkeley, right? But anyway, so then I started doing research in these labs, and I got and I kind of did that 3 of the 4 years of undergrad, like sophomore, whatever you call it, like,
Junior, senior.
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so doing that research with birds, I did some stuff with like analyzing bird songs with like some computer code and like some software. So that was kind of my first taste of like using computers and math to do something with like nature data. But then it wasn't until my senior year of undergrad, I kept pushing for like a year up until then, but then I got the opportunity to lead a project. And the project I led was a mathematical modeling project that was estimating these bird territories and how they like shifted and changed over their breeding season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I loved. And I like fully jumped into that. I ended up like presenting that work at a conference, at an ornithology conference, like bird research ornithology, that I won best undergraduate research at, and then met someone there that I ended up getting hired to work with after I graduated undergrad, and kind of like all these different things happen. And that was so like preparing to do that research for that like project. I got really into programming and the math and statistics. just kind of like on my own, like getting into that. And that really quickly led to like AI or like machine learning and then AI as in, more in general. And I just love that. And like something clicked in me that I was like, wow, you can use like computer code and that as like a way to, code can be like an abstraction of mathematics, which is our language of our universe.
Right.
So, which means you can use computers to make models of like anything that happens in life or in nature. And that just kind of clicked with me. So then I got really into that. Eventually like taught myself all those things, like all of the coding and the AI, like way more in depth.
Right.
And then got a job at a startup in New York City doing machine learning, did that for a year, and then wanted to take all those skills and bring them back into like the environmental science, biology / ecology world. So found a professor at UC Berkeley that does that. Reached out to him and said, hey, I want to meet you and do that. I just kind of cold contacted him. And I put together like a project that I kind of saw some recent work that came out of his lab. And then I did like my own, I made some synthetic data that kind of matched some of what they were doing. And then I kind of did my own idea of what I would do as like an extension of some of that recent work. And then I just made this whole project and like a whole demo of that. And then I flew out to California, met him and presented that. And he was like, you should apply to my lab. You should apply to the PhD program to work with me and be in my lab. And then that's what I did. And that's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, you took the initiative to like piggyback off something he was already interested in to get your kind of foot more in the door.
Yeah, you got to stroke their egos.
Yeah, which is super smart.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of in that like position right now too, which we can get into.
Oh, because you're back into the...
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what professor to like get back into. The one that I really wanted to work with just emailed me back actually on the way here, like 30 minutes ago, and said like I'm not in a position to take students. I'm like, but I'm just realizing I think I just need to present something and make it clear to him that he doesn't need to fund me. Like I can...
Yeah, you can do that yourself.
Things are going well now, you know,
Right.
and as you like alluded to, right, that I'm like doing I'm private tutoring is like my main job, and also doing some contract work for startups. And that's just really has been so good financially and like rewarding as a job that I'm just, I think I actually would be able to like fund myself for probably a year and just finish the PhD out. Which is a whole weight off of like whatever professor.
Right.
And then also, you know, the reason I need to find a new professor is because during the 4-year break, not to be rude, but a lot of professors are on the older side. And so the professor I had retired in the last 4 years. And so now, I'm just in that position. But
no, I don't think that's rude. It's just kind of how life happens, you know?
Yeah.
And when your kind of whole thing is connected to someone else, and especially when they're in those kind of professorships, they are kind of on the older side.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot to get there, which I'm aware of it, which is why I understand to like stroke someone's ego. Like they really worked hard to get to where they are. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we met, is when you were in UC Berkeley. You were in your PhD program. You were probably in what, year 3 or 4? Because we met about 4 years ago, maybe. Just about.
I think I don't like, so again, the whole memory thing. I don't actually recall if I was like technically a student still.
All right. Yeah, I don't know if you were either. Because I think that was one of my flags. Like, so when we met, because you met Hannah, and Hannah's your girlfriend and has been for the last almost 4 years. And she and I were working together and became very good friends. And that's how we met. And we met and kind of instantly liked each other. I really just thought you were, I mean, one, you're a handsome guy, but you're very sweet and kind. And you two have a really nice vibe together.
Thank you.
And I've always thought that.
Yeah.
And then there were things that were kind of like little cracks and things that made me nervous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that you knew that, because then we started to have a little bit more like headbutting and not kind of chilling.
Yeah. Like I know that, and that's the thing is like the details of that, like I really don't, I know there was like issues and I don't really know like what exactly they were, but
a lot of that is not stuff like, I don't need to rehash it, but just like the little flags that I would see, and you know, things that like being really late or not showing up or all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's horrible.
How did you get into your addiction? Like, how did you, did you just start with like, I don't think weed is really a gateway, but like, I mean, for some people it is. But like, what introduced you to your drug of choice?
Right. So it's a little bit of a complicated road because like it ended up with like opiates and stimulants, which like a really horrible combo. Specifically, it ended up with like I never even intended for it to be this way.
Right.
Like, which is a funny quote to say about drug addiction, but it ended up with like, and I really say opiates because I wasn't even like actually. Like it ended up being mainly fentanyl because of things being cut with fentanyl and all
Right.
that, right? And then and the price of it being so much cheaper on the street than like other things. But yeah, but anyway, so it ended up like with that and then meth, which I like looking back, that was a thing that I told myself like I would never do. Like in my head, like years back, I was like very into experimenting with psychedelics and all that, and I had been. I think that actually, unfortunately, loosened me up to using other drugs, but specifically the drug that actually was like my go-to was ketamine, and that was like always for years and years. That was the thing. Like I was a daily ketamine user for at least 3 years,
Wow.
if not more. Yeah, and I had all kinds of like issues from that, which I know ketamine's super popular right now, or it has become, and there are some like very legitimate reasons to, like I don't want to any like drug, any pharmaceutical, but any drug, right? It can have like negative things when like misused or used way too much or whatever.
Yeah.
And I did have some like body effects from it. I do know that ketamine has some great positive effects with like increasing neuroplasticity and helping with PTSD. I had PTSD, and that's the reason I pursued ketamine. I thought it was something that could help with that, which it did. I was having like night terrors and things like that, and but I wanted something where it would be like I could take it and then keep doing this like super high amount of work, like 80 hours a week kind of thing.
Right.
Which is what I was doing with it for a couple of years, like during the PhD and all that, like before we met.
Yeah.
So like my second year of the PhD, the third year into like the fourth year, the use definitely got more and more, but it was like, yeah, it went during that time. It probably went from like a weekly thing or twice a week kind of thing into, like every day.
Yeah. Well, you become like a functioning addict.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are high functioning addicts. Like there are people that use different things to
Yeah.
get them the results. And it's like at that time you probably had your vice, and then slowly your vice takes over.
Yeah.
My grandmother used to always say, make sure you have your vice and your vice doesn't have you.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery tug of war.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because like so what happened with me with ketamine is that I started having body issues after, like I said, years of daily use. Like I was having all kinds of bladder issues and just weird, and like all kinds of what they call like K cramps and everything, like horrible pains in my body. Like I went to the ER a couple times for it. I passed like 3 kidney stones in a couple months from it. Yeah, that happened. And then because of all that, it really hit me that I was like, I don't think I can keep using this stuff, even though I wanted to. But then what at that point though, psychologically that's where really ketamine like messed me up. Psychologically, it's like I like felt I needed it so strongly. So when I stopped taking it, all these like panic attacks came back, like all these things that I forgot were like issues that I was having because I was high all the time. Which is where the opiates came in, because I pretty much was like, okay, and I understand that like benzos are probably more of a thing for panic attacks, but like I never really liked how cloudy those made me.
Right.
So, and I don't know, there's something about like ketamine kind of in a way can feel a little bit similar to opiates. I know ketamine does attach to the same opiate receptors, but not like as strong as opiates do, obviously.
Yeah. Well, there's something about a Vicodin that I will tell you, I love it.
Yeah.
Like it was like,
Yeah.
I was, when I like, some days when I didn't have quite as much pain, I was still popping Vicodin because it would help with my anxiety. It helped with my mood. It made people more pleasant to deal with. Like
for sure.
For the longest time, I slept with a Vicodin on my nightstand after I had gotten kind of myself clean, because I needed to know that I could take it. I needed to know I had that option and that I didn't need it.
Wow.
But like,
because it would scare you not to have
it would scare me. It scared me more.
You don't have access to it.
Yeah, to not have access to it, to not have the choice. So like it was a way for me to like almost kind of like look my addiction in the face every morning and be like, okay, I can do this. It's right there.
Right.
I can take it. Like I have a whole drawer full still, but like I don't want to be that version of me anymore, because I wasn't really living. I was like barely getting off my couch. I was barely getting out of bed. I was like just a shell of who I was.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
But like but to get to that point was really difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting it's for everybody, but like even now when someone talks about it, I'm like, oh, I would love to just pop one, you know?
No, and like the truth is like, I still feel like, I still am very aware how like good like either ketamine would feel or like a multiple of these, other things. Like I feel like for me it was more like Norcos, like hydrocodone, but I think actually I think that might be the same thing as Vicodin, but now I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
I used to know that stuff like perfectly.
Yeah, hydrocodones, I think, are Vicodins, and then the oxys are like Percocets.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, so I totally feel you. It's just that I know like, and I think you're saying like the same thing, I think, but it's like I know where all that stuff will like lead me, you know? Because like, and I saw how much I wasted my potential, my time, my effort, and almost lost my life a few times because all that stuff, and how quickly, like I said, it went from like, okay, I'm into psychedelics and I don't think there's like an issue I ever have had with those or even have now, but then how that made me feel like, okay, getting high just in general was like more acceptable to me, I think.
Right.
And then ketamine is a dissociative but feels kind of psychedelic-ish.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like lump it into that, but I don't really agree with doing that for a lot of reasons, the kind of reasons I'm talking about. But I think because of that, then that just made me feel like, oh yeah, so there's nothing wrong with me using that all the time, right?
Right.
Like there's no limit to it, right? It's not like I even told myself like, oh, it's not an opiate. It's not like a benzo. It's not like alcohol. It's like, there's no problem with it. But like, there's definitely a problem with it that I had. And then, and then from there, it's like I said, then it's when I'm that desperate because of how much I psychologically needed that drug to not be able to use it. It's like, then I was like, okay, whatever, just use opiates. But then I was so fucked up on opiates that I was like, I need something to help me be able to still work.
Right.
That's what led to the stimulants, which I never was going for.
Right.
But that's how that all happened. And then it's just one thing led to another. Then it's like smoking fentanyl and like meth. Like,
right.
Like Jesus. And I went from like a PhD program at UC Berkeley, you know, of all places, to like, so from the time that you and I have met, it's been like 4 years. So I've been sober now 2.5 years, which I don't know if we said during this, but 2.5 years I've been sober, and it's all been like positive, like on the up and up since then. But then going back 4 years to like that year and a half leading up to 2.5 years ago, it was like I am on the, you know, kind of dropped out, quote unquote, of like this PhD program at UC Berkeley that I worked so hard to get to.
Right.
Right. And then I eventually, you know, left my like 2-bedroom apartment I had on my own, and then had some kind of weird like apartment with some tweaker people for a little while in like San Leandro. And then eventually like I have like a broken down car that I'm sleeping out of. And that happened for months. And that's when Hannah and I actually got back together, because she's been, you know, with me through this, and we broke up for a while, which for a lot of good reason on her part. And then, but when she got back with me, I wanted to keep up this illusion that everything was fine.
Right.
And so she would come visit me, and I was just in this whole, I'm just in between apartments, which I even told myself that really was what was happening. But really, I would get like hotel or motel rooms. It went from hotel rooms then to motel rooms for like a I don't even know how many months, when she would come visit me and stay with me for a couple days or whatever. But then I would be back to living out of my car like the other times. Right. It's like, and you know what I was doing like when she wasn't around then, is I was going around and just like stealing like the most ridiculous things, right? Like roof racks off of cars and stuff, and just selling them on OfferUp. It was horrible. Like how, like if I have all this potential and like work so hard, and if I'm thinking I'm the hot shit, like how is that what I'm doing?
Right.
You know, like it's ridiculous. And like, and I'm like fine to talk about this too, but so then eventually what that led to is then I got arrested for trying to steal a car, which was not even a planned out thing. It was just like a spur of the moment. Someone was doing like Uber Eats. Yeah. They left their car on, went to drop off food, and I just got in it while I was walking by and tried to take it. Didn't even know where I was going to take it to. Right. Didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I was like, I just need money, you know, in like a total like fiendish thing. I was definitely high. And then I got caught, got arrested, hiding in a bush in some random person's yard, and then spent 6 months in jail, and that's really what got me clean. Right. And so that's 2.5 years ago is when that started. So the first 6 months of my sobriety were in jail, which was horrible, but you know, it got me clean. So it's all good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was like your rock bottom, you know, like, and it's like different rock bottoms. Like everyone has a rock bottom. Some people have high bottoms. Some people have low bottoms, you know, like I think I was lucky, like my, like relative to going to like jail for 6 months, like I just like woke up in my life and was like, what the fuck? Like I haven't worked. I haven't done anything. Like I barely leave my house. I'm in a marriage that's like not helping me any. If anything, it's hurting me more. And like you know, but I had nothing to, like, I had nowhere to go when I left my ex-husband. I like called my parents and was like, can I come stay with you? Because I haven't worked because of my injury. I have nothing. Like, I can't keep staying in this because it's not going to get me any healthier. Yeah. Like, I got to figure out how to live in pain so I can not have prescriptions. Right. And all the doctors just kept giving me more prescriptions. That was all they ever offered me.
Yeah, because their whole thing is just to treat, like, a thing. Not
symptoms.
To, like, exactly. Right? So, like, they just don't know what to do. I mean, maybe they're getting better about that. Sometimes I feel like maybe that's the case. I don't really know. And in the end, though, I'm realizing, like, you can't really trust, like, anyone else. Like, only you have to get yourself, like, out of that, you know? Right. Like, because the other thing is when you're in that, like, it's hard to even tell, like, what is actually great, like, advice, what's bad advice, like, what people are actually looking out for you or not. Like, but then in the end, only you can do it.
Right. Well, yeah, because you're not the real version of yourself, right? Like, you're now a shifted version because all of that stuff in your system shifts everything, like all your hormones, your biology, your brain chemistry. It like shifts and twists the way that you think. Yeah. So like you're not even having clear thoughts, and then there's like that anxiety of always needing to get your fix, or like trying to make sure that you've timed when you take everything right. Yeah. So that you can like get the shit done that you need to get done.
That was so much effort.
But then like and it's like, crazy. Okay, well, if I take this now and I can feel like this by that time, and then this person will, you know, like, it's like this weird, like brain dance that you're doing where you're like spewing all this extra time on just that stuff. Yeah. So then when people are talking to you, half the time, all you're thinking about is your
little drug scheduling in your head or whatever.
Right. Or like, are you showing symptoms of anything? Can I tell that you're on, and how to avoid it, and how do you, Yeah. So it's like nothing is ever real. Yeah. Because you're so kind of always in another place in your brain.
No, for sure. It's horrible. It's horrible. And it's crazy how, it's just crazy really how, I mean, I feel like so many people say this, like a clean or an addiction or whatever, but just how softly, I guess is what I mean, that it creeps up. Like how like quietly it like becomes a thing.
It takes over.
Yeah. And like my brother says that, so my brother who does not use drugs, like I think he's tried weed like one time. It's like that. Like he really does not do drugs, right? Right. And I think that he told me, so anyway, for him it was hard to like understand, but he did know that I had a lot of pain, like emotionally, from childhood. Like he's slightly older. He left the house 3.5 years, or like 3 years before I did. And in that time, like that was when a lot of things with my dad got like really bad. And then my dad left during that. So my brother kind of got out of that and like really just like distanced himself. Whereas like my little sister, who's then like 3.5 years younger than me, I felt like I had to like sort of protect her and myself. And I didn't feel like I could leave her in this situation when my dad was still around. So I just feel like I like tried to face that head on, which was like the very worst thing that like a son or like, you know, a kid can do, like with their like addicted parent or whatever. Right. And then that obviously leads to all kinds of weird feelings I had later when like I'm myself in like an addiction, even though it's not alcohol, but like how is it any different than like how my dad was acting? Right. Anyway, but what I was going to say is my brother said that the way, like he's told me now that I've been clean, he's told me the way that it would seem, even though this sounded kind of, he said like, you know, it sounds kind of corny or weird or whatever, but it seriously was like a sci-fi movie where you had like some kind of alien that like took over your brain, where like you looked like you and everything, but it's like, it just was not you. It was like, it was someone else that was like controlling your body. And like, I didn't really understand that when he first told me, I think, but like, I totally like get that now. That's totally what it's like. And it's so creepy to like not have control over yourself. You know, it's awful.
Yeah. I've heard other people explain it like that. And that's kind of how I've held on to that too, is like, I tried I really didn't think I was going to be an addict. You know what I mean? Like I grew up with a bunch of them too. I have 9 uncles. I would say 5 of them have been in the program.
Yeah.
And some of them should have been.
Right.
You know, and various different levels of addiction and various different substances. So like I had firsthand seats for a lot of it. So like and when I first started getting prescribed and stuff, I was like, no, I'm going to like have one doctor prescribe everything.
Right.
So I would go to like 6 different doctors in a week and they'd all try to prescribe me something. And I'd be like, no, I want one doctor to like send it all to my primary care.
Right.
Like I wanted one person to kind of have my back and know like what is interacting with what. And he knows what he's prescribing. And, you know, I would check in with the pharmacist every once in a while. And then eventually the pharmacist was even like, do you know how much drugs you're on? Like, what's wrong with you?
Huh.
And it was like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, why is that even your concern? Like,
yeah, you get offended.
Yeah, I got like, was just like, and he was like, you know, what's wrong with you? And it was just kind of it was probably his tone more than anything. Cause it felt more like accusatory and judgy than like concerned.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was doing everything right and still ended up I wasn't taking more than I was prescribed, but I was prescribed way too much.
Yeah, right.
And so slowly it just took over everything. And then I was in that addiction and I was like, I don't know what else to do and how do I get out of this? And if I stop taking it, then my body hurts so much more that I can't even think straight. I can't do anything. And I can't physically move because I'm in so much pain. I was getting like migraines 3 days a week where it was like light sensitive and like could barely hear sounds.
Yeah. So, you know, I've never experienced migraines like that. I don't think I'm sure I would remember if I have.
Yeah.
So I've never had that, but the only thing that I know is, well, so like the thing that I was experiencing that I would say is kind of similar is like I pretty much was having, when I tried to get off of these things, it was like usually night terrors through most of the night, 3 nights a week. So kind of like the same sort of thing.
Right.
And then that would just like keep me up and everything, you know, I'm like not getting enough sleep. And then not only that, but I'm like so on edge, like all the next day. Right.
Right. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. And it's just like, I mean, just taking your body like totally off balance or off like a balance or whatever. Just really, it's crazy. I'm not really sure what else to say about it.
Yeah. But you have like, do you think that if you hadn't gotten arrested, do you think you would be clean? I know that's a hard question you were so kind of deep in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think anything else would have pulled you out?
I think I would be dead if I didn't get arrested, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know if it's really unfortunate. Like, it's unfortunate that I was that bad.
Right.
I mean, because I know it's weird because I'm sure the way I was, there would be like glimpses of kind of my normal personality or in certain ways, you know, and also it was true that I kind of, especially for Hannah, I did try to not use. I tried not to use when I at least was around her. Right. So then I know that she then sometimes got these like glimpses of the real me, but then I don't know. But still, it was still this kind of like. I mean, if you think about it that way, then like that means when she saw the real me, it was always like a hungover me in a way, you know. Yeah. Even though it
wasn't the best version of you, but it was a closer version.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a way more emotional version and like a way more just like on edge and stuff version about everything. But then, but no. So yeah, going back to the question though, like, no, I don't think. I think that. So something that happened with me also that I don't know how much you know about this is that when I said that I was like living at so after living in the San Francisco after living in like the Berkeley/Oakland area, having my own apartment while I was going to the PhD program, then taking leave of absence or like medical leave of absence, and then like I said, I then got that kind of weird apartment that I was at in San Leandro. Mm-hmm. I think I was only there like really like 6 months or something, or maybe less. But during that time, and I was with this like tweaker dude that I was quote unquote like friends with, but really he like totally fucked me over in a lot of ways. Like, cause when I got arrested, I still left like a bunch of things there. And that was like actually all my valuable computers that I had built. Right. All like these nice speakers that I literally paid $4,500 for. And he like, just being a tweaker, like sold them all for like next to nothing. Right. Like
to get his fix.
Yeah, like literally like probably $15,000 worth of stuff. And that was like everything I had, right? And so when I got out of jail, I found that out. And me being sober, like and I actually got there. He didn't have the nerve to tell me. Like, that was a whole thing.
Wow.
I was there with Hannah, actually, and then I just showed up because I thought, like, he would have some of my things and I could just pick them up.
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, so yeah, I'm getting off track because I'm trying to remember, like, all these things like that have, like, happened. But yeah, so during that time, though, I started, like, kind of running with some really shady, violent people, honestly. Some people that were, like, out of prison for, like, it's actually some people that were out of prison for what they were doing was they were, you know, with firearms and everything, like, robbing coke dealers. That was, like, their thing.
Yeah.
But, like,
That's a dangerous,
home invasion robbing, like tying them up kind of thing and all that. So I'm, like,
basically,
hanging out
like,
with these
kidnapping
people.
and robbing.
Yeah. And I'm hanging out with these people because why? Because
they've got the good drugs.
yeah, because of that. And I'm, like, for whatever reason, I was, like, trying to, like work for them and, like, build, like, some kind of, like, relationship there. And then they were interested in me because of computer skills. They wanted me to do some, like, sketchy things with, like, I don't know, just some, like, sketchy computer stuff. The truth is, like, I was never even able to implement any of that stuff that they wanted me to do. And looking back, it's actually not that difficult of things to do.
Right.
But I was just so, like, not good. I was, like, not functional. So I couldn't even, like, get that done. They ended up turning on me, and they ended up, like, doing a home invasion on me while I was at that apartment.
Wow.
And they stole all my things. The only things were left were those things that then those, like, speakers and those computers I'm talking about. So those were the only things they didn't take then. And they beat, like, the hell out of me. Like, I was all messed up, and they had guns and all that. So, and then it was a few months after that is when I got arrested. But, like, because after that happened, I just, like, fled, and that's when I was living out of my broken down car down in, like, the San Jose area. And yeah, which is just, I don't even know why I was there kind of thing. But yeah, I was there, and then that's when I got arrested. 6 months in jail down in that county. And then when I got out, tried to go get the rest of my stuff from the guy who, he didn't beat me up, the guy that was my roommate, but like I said, he
had sold whatever was left.
And he also didn't help in that situation. He just let it happen, right? He was there.
Oh, he was home when you guys...
Yeah.
I think I do remember Hannah saying that you guys had gotten robbed, but I think she downplayed some of it because at that point, like, there was things that were happening, and she and I had, like, some struggles over, like, me being like scared of her kind of being in some of those places with you, and, like, just was, like, nervous.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I would have been too.
I was like, Hannah, I just don't know. There's something about him. And she's like, no, you just don't know him that well. I'm like, I don't know. And, like, you know, and then because we didn't know you were using. I mean, there was glimmers of, you know, we knew some stuff, but not to the extent it was. And, you know, I'm 15 years older than you guys, or at least I'm 15 years older than Hannah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, you know, so I just have a few more years under my belt of, like, seeing things and being nervous, and, you know, but I also always said to her, like, if he's your choice, then I'm here for you. Like, and I'm here for always. Like, I'm not going to tell you can't see him. I'm not going to be, like, fighting with you about it. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, like, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about this, and I'm nervous you're saying this is happening or that's happening. Like, I just want you to be aware, you know? And then after you did get arrested and everything, and she was like, well, I'm going to get him out of jail. And I'm like, okay, well, just, like, be cautious of this and watch for this. Yeah. And, you know, and then when you did admit to her your stuff, it was like, okay, well, now at least we know why this was all happening.
Yeah.
Like, and if he's an addicted, like, then that's different. And, like, I was like, but also that means you might not know him the way you think you do.
Yeah. Yeah,
and so
for sure.
To hear you say that, like, you know that she got to see glimmers of you, is she did, because that's what kind of had kept her connected to you.
Yeah, it's really wild that she's, like, been around for a lot of, like, what happened. And I mean, I'm extremely grateful for it. And also, I mean, also, like, just how authentically she showed me love was totally a thing that, like, snapped, like, it just made things click in my head. Like, when I was in jail, like, because in the first couple weeks I was there, especially the first week, I definitely was, like, fiending, like, I gotta get out of here, I gotta, like, use whatever, right? And it was, like, such a nightmare, and I was, like, really and I was detoxing, obviously, and it's not like they helped with that. No. So, like, I'm, like, getting it was just a nightmare.
Yeah, but, it's not like you get to jail and then they're like, here's a soft blankie and a warm cold compress for your sweaty head while you're detoxing. Yeah. They're just like, tough shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, and they did all kinds of like weird like strip searches during that. And I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
Like, and but anyway, like I just recognized like how authentically like she loved me and how really like I cared for her too. So yeah, so while I was in like that first week or whatever of jail, and maybe it was really like actually, I mean, I want to say it was in that first week, but maybe it was realistically like kind of even in the first month, I guess. But yeah, I just realized like how much I really cared for Hannah, which I did realize that before, like when before I got arrested, going back when I asked her to like get kind of back with me, even though I was still using, it's like it's because I realized like how much I really did like love her, but I was feeling all kinds of like negative ways towards her, which really were all just because of like drug use, because she was kind of what I recognize now is what happened is like she was coming in between how much I was trying to use.
Right,
So it was
yes.
like I had all these weird like feelings towards her that were like hard to. So when I would actually think about it, I'm like, I don't know why I'm like not liking her about this or this. But looking back, I realized it was that. But anyway, so then when I'm like forced to be sober in jail, over the first few weeks or the first month or however long it really was, yeah, I just realized like, you know, I felt authentic love from her, and it made me feel like I can really just feel that for myself and with her, and I can have just a different life, really. You know, that like
Right.
where I was going with things, how I was living was not what it has to be. Like it can totally be different. And then that really is what inspired me to get clean. She's a huge part of that. And it's just so crazy that she, like looking back, it's so crazy what like she kind of went through with me. Like I can't believe some of it, you know, yeah, because it was bad. A lot of things were real bad. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm extremely grateful for her.
But I think it also says something about like that you knew that you were worthy of it in some way, right? Even if you don't see it then, but like I can hear you saying it and say like earlier you said like you would try to not use when you were going to see her.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of where that mixed feeling comes in, because now you don't want to be too high in front of her, but then she shows up. You want her there, but then she shows up and you're like, now you have to leave so that I can get high.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, that happened like, plenty of times.
And so, but you're not realizing it in the time. And then you're like, wait, why do I want her here? But now I don't want her here. And like, I'm happy that she kind of never got into that world with you, because if she did, like you both could have gone down.
Yeah,
and I think that happens to people and they get super judgy about it. And it's like, no, but it's an easy slide. Like,
you mean people get judgy when they
or when like someone might judge you harshly or her harshly for staying with you because like you're an addict, why would she stay with you?
Right.
Well, you're still a human being who she has love for, and she doesn't want to just throw you away.
Yeah.
Because you're not. It's not throwing you away doesn't do anything. Not for her, not for you. You know. And it's also like, if she was to go down that road, people would then kind of blame you or judge her for that. And it's like, no. But like, that's it's a decision she would have made. But two, it's that slippery slope. Like if you had just introduced her and it got her the way it had gotten you, like it's not, that's the fault thing, I think, is what I don't like when someone tries to,
for sure.
You know what I mean? Because you didn't realize how bad you were until you were bad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like in terms of like fault, the only fault that I really like, so, people totally like to, I think it's really hard for people to like accept how addiction actually works and how common it is.
Yes.
That it makes it so it's way easier. I think this is what happens. I think it's way easier for people to just other like people that are addicts, just to like dehumanize them, because like it's so hard to understand like how could that be like a person just like you and I, you know, whatever,
right,
that's now living this way or like seeing the way, you know. But the truth is like, sure, there's some people that are really like out there in terms of their like how I guess connected to reality their minds already are, but for the most part that's not the case.
Right.
For the most part, it's people that are like could be like quote unquote normal people that are like going to work, going, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But trauma is like always the precursor to addiction. Like I don't see it not being that, and in one way or another, you know. And it's just, it can be, I don't know. But yeah, people do that. And then, Yeah, and then what I was gonna say, what I was thinking about when you said that thing about fault is like, I think the only fault is that humans have developed these drugs that naturally, like, our brains are like, it's not normal to have like this amount of these drugs like in our world.
Right.
So then like when we get that huge like rush of dopamine or whatever, serotonin, what you know, whatever,
Right.
whatever all these neurochemicals are, right? When we get those huge rushes of that, it's like those aren't things that we evolved to like have around.
Right.
So it's like our brains are like, oh, that is like an incredible, it's like an orgasm, right? Kind of thing. It's like, that's not, you know, our brains tell us get more of that.
Right.
So it's in any way you look at it, it's actually this uphill battle that's not anyone's fault.
Exactly.
Other than people that have created these drugs, I guess. But also I get, you know, it makes sense why they've
Well,
made
yeah, I
these
mean,
things.
half the reason we have such an opiate and fentanyl problem, or a fentanyl problem, is because of the opiate problem
Right.
that was created for people to get rich off of.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah, it's messy.
And now it's like there's so much documents or documentaries you can watch on it. There's so much
Yeah.
like real things that they knew what they were doing and they just didn't care because they were othering people and saying like, but if we give it to those people over there, we can make money and who cares what happens to them.
Yeah, it's like cocaine in the inner cities in like the 80s or
Yep.
whatever, and like whatever was going on with like the government. I don't know how much of that, what exactly was happening, obviously, but like whatever was going on with like government or any kind of like pushing of cocaine in inner cities, you know,
Yeah.
and then into like crack cocaine and all that, like it was kind of like, I think a lot of the reasoning there was probably that one, it was like, well, because maybe at that time before crack, cocaine was only this like really rich, like little like play drug or whatever, which, you know, it still kind of has that. But then with crack, maybe they didn't see it turning into that. I don't know. But then when that was in the inner cities, it's kind of like, well, these are like, you know, the slums, the poor of the poor. Like they're already like killing each other, whatever, like, you know, bullshit like that. But yeah, I feel like that's the same kind of analogous thing of, you know, I don't know what happens with these like opiate companies or whatever.
Yeah, I think it is very much the same. And I think the fact that we let it happen again, like, is just because we're not paying enough attention as like our society, and we're not holding people accountable enough. Because if you know, the Sacklers hadn't done all of that, the amount of addicts in this country would be, I would say, half, if not more.
You're right.
Because almost everyone I know that is on like the fentanyl or doing meth or doing any of that, most of them started with opiates.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
opiates
Right.
get harder and harder to get, so you have to go to the street stuff.
Right.
The
right.
street stuff, the worse it is, it seems like the worse it is, the cheaper, or like the cheaper it is.
Yeah,
like meth
and the
is-
more accessible it is,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. And so much stuff is really like cut with meth. I mean, even like Molly and MDMA and all that, right?
Right.
It's like party drugs. It's for people that don't do that, right? Like if they take, you know, if they eat like a dose of meth or whatever, then yeah, they're going to be like raving for 12 hours, you know,
Right.
and like, and all that. But yeah.
And sometimes one hit of meth is enough to set off your addiction.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
Like-
it's so strong. It really is. Like,
Yeah.
It's crazy strong.
And it is scary how prevalent it is. Like, and how many people, like, I went out on a date once with this guy and we like went for a walk and we were like hanging out and he was like, you want to come back to like my place is around there? We'll swing by. I'll grab something. We'll like go grab food. I'm like, all right. And it was going like well, you know, for a first date. So we go back to his place and he's like, you mind if I smoke? And I was like, no. And I just assumed he was talking about weed.
Yeah.
And dude brought out like a little glass.
Oh my
and
God.
I was sitting there and I turned around and I was like, and he took a huge hit and I just looked at him and I was like, that's not weed. Like, I was like, I thought you were doing a dab or something. And he was
Yeah.
like, oh, no. And he blew it. And I was like, is that meth? And he was just like, yeah, why? Do you want some? And I was like, I got to go. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I
So
guess
crazy.
good on him for putting it right out there. But I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is my life? Like, how,
Yeah.
like, and I would have never pegged him for a guy that smoked meth.
Yeah. I know,
Like,
it's crazy.
I just was like, and he was just so casual about it
Yeah.
that I was like, you know, you should hide that, right? Like,
Yeah. That's crazy.
I was just like, and
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, I got it. Like, this is not, I can't, like, no,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, it's wild. You know, it really is like, yeah, it really is like everywhere. I don't know. And I feel like it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is the case, but I feel like it is like just more and more available. Like, you know, not just meth, but like all these kind of, I don't know, drugs. And then like on one hand, I'm really, despite all this stuff with me that happened with addiction and now like being sober and all that, I do think that I don't like that drugs are illegal. I don't like that it's like criminalization of them, because I don't see how that's helpful or makes sense. But but then at the same time, it's like I don't actually think that people should be maybe like doing them as much as they are in a lot of ways. And then with that, it's like, I don't know. Like I really now that I've gotten clean and I'm back to being like perceptive, I guess, and everything. It's like I'm seeing a number of people that really are like totally in like an addiction, but I know that they're not like, that they have not like accepted that that's what's happening. Like they're not aware of it or at least in denial of it or whatever.
Right.
And they're like fully functioning and everything like we were talking about before. And and it's just really crazy like how selfish it makes you. Like even people with the best intentions, it's like I said, when those things are so strong and your brain is then just like telling you like, get more of that. It's like, it forces you to become this like, at least to some degree, like this selfish like person, you know. It's crazy. It really is like so crazy. Yeah.
Cause it shifts who you are.
Yeah.
It's like your brother was saying, it's like an alien takes over your body, and it's like you get glimpses or glimmers of you, but it's that addiction is now running the show.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that people don't understand it, and because they don't understand it, or I think like in some of my own things, I think I didn't think I could be one. You know what I mean? Like, and even sometimes I have a hard time saying like, oh no, I'm an addict. Like
No, totally.
Like I still have a hard time. And I grew up going to Al-Anon meetings and going to AA meetings, and like I grew up adjacent to that world. So, and to still say it now, it kind of gets caught in my throat a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that it's scary to think I could be one. And so people don't want to, like, one, I don't think you should ever label someone else an addict. Like, I don't think that's your kind of role. But like, I think people don't want to talk about it because one, they don't understand it, or two, maybe they're scared of it, that they know and understand how fast they could slide.
Right.
So it's easy to kind of other those people too, because then you kind of distance yourself from it. Like, like I don't talk to those kind of people. Like, what do you mean?
No, exactly. No, exactly. Like that. Yeah, I think that I really do think that happens all the time because, I mean, just like there's things that I feel like it's more obvious with. I mean, to feel like that fiendiness of like doing coke and then feeling like I need to do more of that. The truth is though, like I feel that stronger with ketamine than I do with cocaine. And I mean, and I've done plenty of both, but I way prefer like ketamine, and it makes me feel like I have absolutely to do more. Yeah. You know, it's like there's no like controlling me with that. But what I'm trying to say is like you do that. Actually, so to go back, it's like then that's so wild that if that really feels that much stronger for me, there must be other people that it feels that much stronger. How more-ish it feels like needing more. I mean, that's what I'm not trying to say more like dark. I mean, like needing more.
Right. Like the fiend for it is if you can understand that for what you like, but so you can understand what it must feel like for them. Yeah. Or if you got you wrangled that monster, but you can understand how hard it was and how hard it could be, especially if you're not going to admit it.
Yeah.
Like those people that you're saying you're like, well, they're high functioning, so it's harder for them to admit that they're an addict because on paper, kind of, they look like they're doing great.
Yeah.
But then when you look at them and you're like, oh, that person's like half distracted because they're trying to figure out where their next fix is coming from.
I will tell you, I absolutely believed that, and I think I even like had the nerve to say this to my mom at one point, that I said that, I know I said it to myself and to like people, like I don't know how many people, but I know I said this out loud and I thought it plenty of times, that I was as successful I was with getting into this PhD program and teaching myself programming and all this AI work because of drug use, that I wouldn't have been able to get there without it. Though the truth is that I was there despite using drugs. Right. Like, I will say that I did get a lot of creative ideas from different, like, LSD and, like, mushroom trips and, like, things like that. But, like, that was only because I already was going that path and was, like, seeking that in a way. Right. And, like, it's also, you know, who's to say that I wouldn't have gotten that much, like, creativity and, like, flow state kind of things out of, like, you know, doing intensive exercise or, like, going on trips or to new places, right? Right. Sure, like, I mean, yeah, or, like, meditating every day, which I did used to do, right? And I'm kind of getting back into that now again. But which I'm very happy about. But anyway, my point is that like I think like psychedelics are a whole nother story about this, because yeah, they don't have all these negatives with like societal harm and body harm and all that. But like I said, they also like in a way they get glorified just like any drug can. They get almost like praised as
Right.
being like saviors of people, right?
Right.
And I'm all like I really think very highly of them, but like I still totally like see that as like an issue. And like I said, with me, they just getting, you know, tripping and everything, which is definitely like way different than like being on opiates or whatever. It just totally made me feel like it's acceptable to be like kind of changed in that way,
Right.
like subconsciously. And so then it made it like, yeah, it just totally, I know that opened me up to be way more and more like open to, you know, eventually doing meth, even though how do you go from psychedelics to meth? Well, I lived that, how you go there. And it's not direct, but like it totally eventually happened. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that part's like real crazy to me.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think it's too because we put like if I was to like go back in time, I wouldn't put mushrooms and LSD in the same category that I would put like coke and
yeah.
Molly and or MDMA. You know, I think they should have been kind of delineated a long time ago
Yeah.
as like because we categorize them in the same way, but they are very different substances. They have very different effects. Where if like we'd kind of kept the plant medicine to the side and then we had like hardcore drugs, I
Yeah.
think that kind of bridge wouldn't be as kind of built for you to go from like, oh, I'm doing kind of mushrooms that are illegal
Oh,
anyways.
totally. Yeah,
why
yeah,
why not
totally.
try this thing? Like, oh, if these are illegal, but they do all this good stuff.
Yeah, right.
Maybe all this good stuff over here.
Yeah, no, and
and I think that's where that kind of bridge comes from. So I can
Right.
like I think a lot of people kind of think they can't be related, but it's because we categorize them together.
Yeah,
that your
right.
brain is like, oh, it's actually like almost like a 1-for-1.
Right.
They're the same bad thing.
Yeah, like if I'm looking at the scheduling, like I would get just as much time if I got arrested for LSD as like this other thing. So
Right.
like, maybe, yeah, it's the same. But that's all
maybe
because
maybe
of
the
war
other
on
thing
drugs.
isn't as exactly like maybe the other
Yeah.
thing isn't as bad because it's in the same category as LSD, and LSD is great. So
Yeah.
like I think that's how you kind of get that reasoning.
Yeah, totally.
That
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
No, yeah, totally. And like, yeah, and then it like I know it added in that like so many people that are into psychedelics are into ketamine, and they just kind of and they say it has psychedelic properties, right?
Right.
Which I do get. I mean, like you go into a K-hole, there is very trippy things that happen, but it's definitely different than like than mushrooms, LSD or DMT or things like or like mescaline, things like that. But
Like I've tried ketamine and I don't really enjoy it, and I don't think I've ever hit a K-hole because I've never been adventurous enough to try that much.
Yeah.
Because I haven't been doing it in like a doctor's office setting. It's not where I was
right.
doing it. I was doing it out like partying and stuff, and I was just like I don't want to disassociate. Like I think and that's kind of a personal preference.
Right.
Like I disassociate already to deal with the pain that's in my body, so I'm always slightly disassociated. So I'd rather have something to bring me back.
Yeah.
And so
I
like
could see
the
that.
thought of like being further kind of away from reality, I'm like, no, I don't like that. Like
Right.
it feels less controlling. Like
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
had
I
people
could
that
see
are
that.
in K-holes talking to me for like 25 minutes and then not remember they even saw me.
Right. Yeah.
So I've always been a little kind of skittish about it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of happy that I have been, and happy that like, okay, well, I dip my toe in to just kind of understand it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would totally do it in a doctor's office and, see how it works with like a trauma specific thing.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of trauma stuff in my life that I've never dealt with. And I,
Right.
through therapy, keep trying and think there are things that I'll touch and there are things that I'm like, I don't really need to go back into that.
Right.
Like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
okay with just being like, that's a chapter that I can just kind of acknowledge happened, but I don't have to work through it all.
Right. Yeah.
But sometimes I think like, oh, if I was going to do a ketamine treatment, what would I kind of ask to go
Yeah.
through? But I'm like, I don't also know if I want to even
do
open
that?
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think there are some things in your life that you can just kind of put in that box. I think there are some things you can't.
Right.
There are some things that come up, like you were saying, your night terrors. Like
Yeah,
there are some
right.
things you have to process, and there are some things that you can kind of just, I guess, shove down.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really healthy. Like we'll have to
No,
check with the therapist.
Yeah.
but-
I mean,
But-
I feel you with that. Like, yeah, like, so it's a funny saying, but there's no free lunch. So even if like, so even if you're able to use something like ketamine to then address things that it's just really difficult, bordering on impossible to address otherwise, it's like, it's not like there's not going to be anything that's going to come from the fact that like you did that though. Right. Like, you know, like, I don't know, there's yeah, it's not as side effect free, you know, as I feel like it's maybe portrayed to be, or that people want it to be. I mean, it would be, yeah, I mean, I guess that would be an amazing existence, right? If like there was no repercussions to many things, but the truth is that there is, you know, and when you're changing your brain's chemistry, and even if in science doesn't currently know all the ways that it affects our brains, like I know through experience that like it is definitely like changing like how I think and am, you know, like all the stuff we're talking about, like in the same ways that like in different ways, but to the same kind of degrees that even like meth or opiates can like change like how you are. Like I totally was like a different person using like ketamine every day, and like I was a different person like in the later like kind of year or whatever of using it than how I was when I first started using it, for sure. And it was a different experience, like absolutely, which is weird, you know. It's like how it's kind of weird to think like how is that actually the case, but it just is.
Right. Something that was helping you and getting you kind of to your goals is now taking all the stuff you've worked so hard away. Like, how can that one substance be responsible kind of in your brain for both? Yeah,
right. Exactly.
You know, like you give it credit for helping you to get some of those creative ideas and workflow states, but it's also the thing that made you have to take a leave and kind of lose all the things that you're working on.
Yeah, because
it's like that one thing shouldn't be able to be both things.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about like the free lunch. It's like, it could have like great beneficial things, but can you actually like, is your body or mind or whatever able to actually like put a constraint on it? And the truth is like I can't, you know, like even if I can at first, eventually like it's going to lead me to like using every day. I know it, you know, I just know it. And so I just can't do it, you know, and yeah. So I don't know, you know, I don't know if you know this other thing either though, but during my, I think it was my third year of my PhD, that I was married and then I got separated from someone, but she was, and I know at first when Hannah and I were together, I was talking about her like all the time, and it's weird because I don't even remember doing that.
Oh, but, really?
Like, yeah, but I guess I was all the time, and I believe her that I was all the time.
Oh, I know about her from you.
Yeah, right, but I don't, I it's like I never really like talk about her much now, and like because I don't know why I would, and I don't know why I was just so like that's the thing about like a drug like that helps with trauma is like when you overdo it, I feel like it does this thing where then you actually get stuck in the trauma and you don't go anywhere. So even though like I yeah, you know, because it's like even though at first like the ketamine helped me kind of get through some stuff, like then with just doing it over and over, it's just like I got actually sucked back to like stuff I was using it to help me with, and I never got out of it. I was like so much weaker, like more like bothered and everything by like things that happened in my childhood with my dad and things that happened, you know, in my early 20s or I guess like mid 20s with this ex-wife of mine that I had, and that was all okay. So I'll just touch on that. So she and I were experimenting with like psychedelics and stuff and kind of like raves and that whole scene together. We were both from the East Coast, but then we moved out to California because I got into that PhD program. And then
so she moved out with you from Maryland?
Yeah, slightly delayed. I think I was out here 6 months before she was, or something like that. Yeah. Like again, like I don't remember exactly, but it was something like that. But she finished her undergrad in New York, which is why I lived in New York City for a year. Because she was finished, that was her senior year of undergrad. So I just moved up with her there, and then I got into this thing at UC Berkeley and, you know, all that. But anyway, so we were living together, and then, like I said, we like kind of like experimented and stuff like that, but it was a lot more like kind of bordering on like partying and stuff. But then eventually that's when like the ketamine like kind of came up here and there. But then what actually happened is while I think it was during my third year of my PhD when I was like studying intensely for my qualifying exam, which is like, it's a 3-hour exam. That's just you and 4 professors. It's like the most important exam that you have for that whole PhD. And I had to study 30 different scientific papers from each professor. So 120 total. And I didn't have any notes or anything, but they can just grill you on questions the whole like, they grill you on questions for like 2 hours and 15 minutes. The first 45 minutes, you have to present what you want to do for your thesis, and they like pick it apart and the same kind of thing.
So it's almost like when you defend your dissertation.
It's exactly like that, but it's like, at least in that program, at least in the department I was in or am in, it's like front loaded.
Okay.
As in the actual defense is just like a talk that you give at the end. Like
like they make sure that you can do it before you even start it.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. That makes sense. So, and it's so intense, right? And people like take like a whole semester, like grad students take like a whole semester or even more to just prepare, like months and months just to prepare for this thing. So I had some drama that happened with my PI, my professor I was working for. Because I had all these computer skills, but in an environmental science department, he was really happy that I was able then on the side to kind of do some work to help with this software that he was trying to build as like a side project. When I told him I couldn't do that because I needed to prepare for the qualifying exam, he got a little revengeful or like a little petty, and he took my funding from me like 2 weeks before the semester started. So then I had to find a teaching job to help, because you have to either have like a research grant money funding, or you have to teach to have funding.
Right.
And he was giving me the former, but then he took that away from me, like just to be petty. And then so I had to get a teaching job. So even though usually people just prepare for this exam, I also had to teach a class. While that was all happening, and so I was doing easily like 12 to 14 hour days,
right? Like
every day, weekends, like whenever. Then when I would get back home, that's when some stuff happened with my ex-wife where I don't know exactly like what happened, but something happened, and she had this issue with her eye, and she couldn't work for like some months. Okay. She had to end up having like, I think, a surgery that fixed it or something, but it was this whole like weird thing, and she like really freaked out about that. And I understand, like she had like constant double vision, like must be like scary as hell. But and because we were experimenting a lot, like before I started studying for this qualifying exam, because I really actually took a break from like drugs while I did that.
Right.
But at least for the most part, right. But then but because I was like wanting to do all this like tripping and all that stuff from like the years leading up, I ended up having this big jar of like Xanax bars in case I ever like had a panic during a trip and needed it. I think I only ever like used like a half of like or something of one of them, and it was like actually like 100 of them, and that I got like illicitly, but I just had those. Anyway, so then I had those like back, like not in a normal place I saw every day. Right. So it turns out what was happening is that she was going through those and using them, and I didn't realize because I was gone all day studying for this exam, like all day, every day for weeks and weeks, months and months. But then she also turned out, which I wasn't doing coke then, and actually I've never really been that into having like coke. It's never really been my thing, even when I was using. But she was getting coke, I think, from we had a friend at the time who was a dealer, so very obvious, like very easily could have been doing that. And the reason I know that is because like I would get home and she would be like on these. It was like she was benzoed out and then also like on a stimulant, so it was kind of like back and forth like between these like weird like states. And she ended up becoming like really abusive. So she attacked me a bunch of times. Like just all this weird stuff happened. And I was like in the most stressed I've ever been in as an adult. Well, besides I guess when I was in jail, but it was one of the most stressful things, like studying for this exam. I ended up passing an exam and all that. But like, I have like scars on my arm that are from her. Like all this stuff happened. And that like brought out a bunch of like trauma that related to that I just associated with like how my dad was when I was a kid, right? Because he chose alcohol over being like a loving person towards me, and I was begging with my ex-wife to not keep using. Like when eventually I found out that she was like just doing all that while I was gone, and she got in trouble with her work. They ended up like doing a drug test on her, which is how I found out she was doing cocaine. Like I knew something was happening, but I didn't know until then, which was months later. Anyway, that was all crazy, and I don't think you know maybe much about any of that. I don't know, but that all happened, and that is actually, it was like after that is when I kind of snapped, and that's when I went into like everyday using, like soon
That
after
was
that.
your catalyst. It's because you probably dated someone that was like your dad.
Exactly.
So like
and
we
then I
date,
married,
yeah,
I
and
was
then you
with her
married
like
her.
6 or 7 years or something, and
Yeah.
like I realized like, wow, I'm with, I had this realization that I was with the same like person. I was like with my dad, but like in this relationship, which is so weird, but I know like that's how it goes. And that's actually when all that stuff happened. Shortly after is when I had my first overdose. So
How many times did you overdose?
I think I've overdosed 3 times.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was the first one.
That's scary.
Yeah, it was horrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we're glad you're still here.
Yeah, I am too.
And like you said a little while ago, you've been clean now 2.5 years. So like, maybe jail helped you get there, but you've stayed there because of you and your hard work. And
Yeah, for sure.
like, and now you're back on track you're back in your school, you're figuring out your PhD program.
Yeah.
You know, so like you kind of fell off course, most people might say.
Yeah.
But like you righted yourself, you know, like you got yourself down there, but now you've gotten yourself back.
Yeah, I've been trying very hard, like every day, very, very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it like, I'm seeing it slowly, like for sure, like I'm doing like better and better, and you know, like emotionally, I don't know, psychologically, spiritually, like financially, school wise or whatever. So yeah, I appreciate that, and I am. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, it's really nice to see it, and you've done a lot of it on your own, which is hard. Like, and it's not an easy road. It's not, a lot of people have a hard time doing that. And like, you've done it, and you've done it with like a lot of grace too for yourself, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
Like, and you've been trying to make your amends and do the things and, you know, be right by all the people that you love. And that's a huge, like, it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
Like,
thank you. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard, really. But yeah, but I just feel like it's so necessary.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like something about that. It just feels like it's so scary to like reach out to someone. Like my best friend didn't talk to me for a long time. My best friend, Quan, like he didn't talk to me for a long time. And like, and I never used like those drugs with him actually, but, and it's not like he's just like, I don't know. He just, I was being like a horrible friend and like just so like on and off and like whatever. So yeah, he stopped talking to me even when I got clean. I reached out to him a bunch of times. He like left me, just ghosted me kind of thing for like a long time, for like, I think like a year or something. And that like destroyed me. I was so upset about that. But eventually he saw that I was like consistent and kept, I don't know, just kept like every once in a while reaching out and trying. And then, yeah, now we just hung out with him like actually just the other day, like Saturday or Sunday. So, and I don't know, my relationship with him is now like so much more like, I think so much stronger because I've been like so vulnerable with him, you know, and I've just opened up about, I really don't want to lose you. And I really was like, you know, messed up in all these different ways. And I'm so sorry that I was like a horrible friend, but I'll never like take you for granted again.
Right.
Same things I've said to Hannah, you know, and that I've said to other people. And it's definitely scary as hell, but I appreciate you recognizing that.
Yeah. Well, of course. And I think it should be recognized and talked about, you know, like, because I bet you Quan pulled away because he's watching a person he loves and who's been his friend for years basically kill themselves.
Yeah.
And it's hard to watch. Like, I have a few friends that are deep in their addiction, and I'll check in with them, but I also am like, I keep a distance, and I have to for my own heart and for my own brain, and because I don't want to get sucked in almost. Yeah. And even though I know now, like, it would never, like, I have like, you know, maybe there's still nights I drink a little too much, or, you know, but I have like checks and balances I've set up for myself, because like I have chosen not to be completely sober. I'm like more California. So, I'm not sober. I can't say that. You know, like I drink not every day, but I drink quite often, and like I smoke a lot of weed. But I now know like when I have my vices, and I know like I have to take breaks, and I know I need to check in with myself, and I know there's people that I'll be like, you know, that would check me if I started to go too far off course. And it's like figuring out your boundaries almost. And it sounds like you probably didn't get raised with a whole lot of boundaries. Yeah, I didn't either. And so it's like trying to figure out how to be the version I want to be in the world. But also like knowing like someone like you, like I have learned so much from you and gotten to like have exciting fun times. And like, I'm going to get, you know, if I had just said to Hannah, like, hey, you know, fuck that guy. Yeah. He's a piece of shit or whatever. And like, either that would have caused us to either not be friends anymore, you know, like I would have lost her too.
Yeah, right.
Or, you know, she could have taken bad advice from me and left you and then had some resentment all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then
yeah.
that would have lost our friendship.
Yeah.
But by
sure.
just kind of being respectful of like, okay, that's your decision. You're an adult and I'm going to be here for when you need me. And like, I'll be here to like be open to him being like the better version of himself. And if he is, great. But if he's not, then like, we're going to have like this thing in our friendship where I don't hang out with your man, you know?
Yeah. Right.
But it was so nice to see like you were doing all the things and being the person that you wanted to be for you and kind of for her.
Yeah. No, and for sure.
Like,
yeah.
Because I know, like you said it earlier, you're the only one that can do it and you have to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
But she's a big part of that. And
no,
like,
for sure she is. Yeah.
You know, I think that this whole situation was like, you had like a bad, you know what I mean? Like it was a blip.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't define you, you know, like, and it sounds kind of to like minimize it, but it almost like in your years of existing, there's like 3 years that maybe your shit was bad.
Yeah.
After all those years of you being so, you know, a good person who's productive and doing the things, you know, so it shouldn't be the only thing that defines you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny to look at it like that because I definitely like all or nothing it in a lot of ways. And a lot of the rhetoric around like recovery rooms and all that is definitely like all or nothing. So what I mean by that is like, I see it like, okay, I was using, even if it wasn't every day, like I was using drugs for pretty much most of like my adult life. Or like, you know, maybe mainly from like, I guess 21 to like, 29 or 30 or whatever. So it's like, oh my God, like almost 10 years or whatever, like a decade of using where I was just like this piece of shit. But yeah, the truth is that it wasn't like that exactly, you know, it wasn't this like all or nothing like that, yeah, it sank into getting worse and worse. And like, it was probably like a sort of on the edge being a problem or like whatever kind of, I don't know exactly how to describe it for like a little while. And then, yeah, you're probably right that it was like really 3 years of it being like this just bad. And then, yeah, coming back. But yeah, I know that the thing though about that is like, you know, it takes, what do they say? It takes such a, it can take like years to build trust or whatever, like so many moments, and then it can take like 10 seconds to destroy it, right? So that's the kind of the problem is like, you know, I don't know. I feel like I have felt like I'm having this uphill battle that I'm having to like prove myself like a lot. And then I tried to, for the most part, like be okay with that and accept that because of how much I put a lot of people through. But then sometimes I'm just like, all right, come on. It's been like years, literally years of me being like on top of my shit and like just improving like day after day. That like, do you have to like not trust me about like this or this and that I'm referring to like things that, yeah, for sure with Hannah, my partner. But a lot more like maybe like with like my family and stuff, you know, and I don't know, especially with my sister, that's like a very rough like thing right now that I want to make better very badly.
Yeah, and it is. And I think sometimes, too, that part sucks for people that have gone through stuff like you have.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, at what point do I get to have the benefit of the doubt back?
Right.
And it's like people almost like lord it over you in a way. Or like it's like their little bit of control in kind of that relationship because they lost so much of it.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of not fair. Like that you have to, like, I mean, I go about both ways on that argument because like as a person that like, you know, not you specifically, but like having an addict in my life that like has done fucked up shit. And you're like, okay, yeah, now you're sober. Now I'm supposed to just get over it because you said sorry. Like there is a little bit of that. Like, you know what I mean? There's a little bit of a resentment, I think, on the person who gets hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But like, and that's their thing that they have to kind of let go.
Yeah.
And decide like, all right, if we're going to do this, then we both have to go into it like, knowing and saying, okay, yeah, this stuff happened, but now we're on a new page and we're going to keep trying to look forward and not keep pulling all of that back up. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the thing that's like the most rough for me is like I said, like with my sister, because I think it's just, I really am struggling, like even to this day with exactly that issue. And on one hand, I totally understand like why she feels some type of way about a lot of things. Yeah. And then on the other hand, I'm like haven't you like I feel like I've been going above and beyond to try to like fix our relationship and be like on point, and I like am fine with, you know, she can be super flaky with me and like also in a lot of ways, sometimes be like kind of selfish in what she's about, which, that's whatever. But I just am like, that's fine. I'm just going to accept it exactly how she is and like not complain whatsoever.
Right.
I'm not perfect at that, but I have been doing that a lot. But then at the same time, then I think back on it and it's like, I have so much guilt around things with her because she is actually the one that found me the first time I overdosed.
Right.
Which was like, I know, traumatic as hell for her. And that was like, like 5 years ago, something like that. I think like 5 or 6. I think my mom, I know she knows the exact like year it was, but it was like around that. And I think that, so I was visiting family for, it was a couple weeks after I passed that qualifying exam. That's when it was. And because then I visited family for like Christmas time. Yeah. And it was a couple days after Christmas. She found me overdosed like in this car. Wow. With my ex-wife who was all messed up. Like she wasn't an overdose, but like not really coherent. Yeah. Yeah. So that was horrible. So my sister like really, yeah. So there's like issues there. And like I have a lot of like guilt around that. I was definitely battling with feeling just like horrible about myself about that, but I know I've forgiven myself a lot, in a lot of ways. Like I know I was just really sick. I know that for like a lot of the things that happened, but still, I mean, that's just like a really tough one. I think it's super hard, but yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah, and I think time will eventually do it, and especially if you can kind of keep that grace for her to know like she's still struggling with it, even though you might not be, for whatever reason she's holding on to it. And I can't imagine finding your brother like, unresponsive. That is scary, and she's probably still really mad that she could have lost you, and she probably has a lot of that like, and she doesn't know how to get rid of it almost. Yeah. And then if she gets rid of it, what happens if you relapse? And then what happens if so now she put her in that position to get hurt again, or like she put herself into that position to get hurt again. Right. So I could see how she would feel that, but I also understand like it's frustrating when she can't let go of it. Right. Like because it does put in like a wall between you two. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I've been, it's hard too because so what also makes it hard is that my whole family is all on the East Coast still, so I'm not like spatially or geographically close to them, so they're not seeing me like day to day. And so I came up with a solution for that, which I think was a good one. So I have weekly FaceTime chats with my sister and separately weekly FaceTime chats with my brother. And then I call my mom pretty often, and we end up FaceTiming a lot. But with my siblings, I have that scheduled, and I come through like almost every week. I was actually really torn because since Hannah and I just did this move that we did, like I had to like cancel on one of those like sessions, and that like really bothered me. Like I like take it that seriously, right? But then at the same time, my sister has probably flaked on like a third to a half of them. Like, and like it'll be last minute all the time, and I just have to like take that, right? Yep. But that's the only. So if I think about it, it's like, so she's seeing me for the most part for like 1 hour a week, like seeing me, even though it's through a video. That's so different than like, if she in person like saw me and how I am and like saw that like over and over and over again. So I don't know. So yeah, I'm trying to just give that a lot of grace and like be okay with that. But that's definitely like, it's definitely been a very difficult part of this like sobriety thing for sure. But
it's like dealing with all the consequences of it. Like, it sucks.
Yeah. And there's still like a lot, there's still more people that like I feel like I need to reach out to make amends. And it's just, and then at the same time, it's like, it's hard to like do that. And like, I don't want to do that too much too fast, even though it's been like some time that I've been clean, because there's also been a lot of other things I've needed to rebuild. Right. But I don't want to do too much of that too fast and just feel like so bad about myself, like rehashing like all of these different things. So I've been, I don't know, kind of on this like weird struggle of how much is the right amount of like fixing relationships versus like just doing something good for myself kind of thing.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like how many of those relationships that you're thinking of are those people also in their addiction. So is it something that one, you want to open the door to like them exchanging energy with them, or two, is it anything that they even, and I'm sure there are some people that were sober or sober that you have that with, but I wonder too, how many of those relationships are drug related versus
Right.
actual real relationships.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to figure that out too if you're not interacting with them.
Right.
So I'm sure
for
that's
sure.
also like a little bit there, or I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Like there's like I wanted to like fix some relationships with a few people that there's definitely been people I've recognized like I thought those people were like my best friends, right? And then I realized that everything our relationship was about was just getting high.
Right.
Like and it's so crazy how I only see that in hindsight. You know, like I thought I was so close with that person, then I realized like what do they like really know about me? That like, you know, what do they really experience with me that wasn't us just like getting high the whole time?
Right.
And I know I shared stuff with them, but all like fucked up that like I don't know, do they really know me? And it's just that part was like crazy to like recognize that. There's been a couple people in particular I'm thinking of like that yeah, I just decided like I don't think I can actually like reach out to them. I don't think I can have them in my life at all.
Right.
Like unless they got clean and like were that way, like
right. But I think that that's an important thing to realize too and recognize and know like, okay, there are people from my past that are going to be good for me to bring back. And then there are people that are better be kind of left in my past.
Yeah.
And that's I can imagine how hard that is. I mean, just in my own life and thinking about things like when I walked away from my old life, there was people that like have stayed with me and there are people that haven't. And at times it's like, wait, do I want to reach out to those people? And then I'm like, wait, why would I reach out to them?
Yeah.
They're a part of that old life that they weren't really adding value then if I can like really distance myself from it.
Right.
It's like those people were part of that life that I was having that I shouldn't have been in, and they probably recognize that too. And like there was a distance that I don't want to admit that I probably always knew was there.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
And it
yeah,
just gets kind of tripping, like
yeah.
layers of complications.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, and you and Hannah are about to go on an epic adventure, which I'm super excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm super sad for myself.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. I could see that.
But I'm super excited to come and meet you guys. You guys are going to start because you'll be remote for most of your work for what you're tutoring and then doing your PhD stuff. You can do a lot of that.
Yeah, because it's all data science stuff, AI stuff. Like I theoretically should be able to do all the rest that I need to do of the PhD stuff like remotely. And I talked to the people that run, like not the professors, but the people that kind of like work, like the staff people for the department.
Admissions.
Yeah, exactly. And they told me like there would be no problem actually in like me being remote. But yeah.
And Hannah works remote, so you guys are going to start doing the camper van life.
Yeah, so we have our big truck and then we got our cab over, slide in camper. So yeah, so we have our whole little rig. And yeah, we're about to just be nomadic for at least probably a year, if not 2 years. And I don't know, I kind of feel like we're going to end up doing a lot out of this. And yeah, but we're about to be like fully nomadic, which is wild.
Yeah. And you guys will be sharing that journey kind of coming up too in the next couple of weeks. You'll start to share that and stuff so people can kind of follow you guys and see what it's like and see where you're going and kind of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
we actually on the way over here, we're thinking about like we've been thinking about names for that, like branding or whatever. Like we really want to make YouTube videos and we've been filming stuff for that. But I'm thinking that actually what Hannah, I had this idea and then she kind of like did an iteration of it that I like a lot better. But we were thinking if it's not taken, something like more to explore.
Ooh.
Like something like that.
Yeah.
It kind of rhymes and then it's just about there's more like world out there to explore. And I don't know because I don't even know all the places we're gonna end up going, but there's always going to be more to explore. So
yeah, I love it. All right, well, I think we'll wrap this up because I know you have to get to work and I have to go hang out with your beautiful girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who I hope we'll meet her soon on here. She and I actually sat down one day with another friend, but the audio was terrible because there was 3 of us and only 2 mics. And we were like giggly little schoolgirls. So, but we'll get to introduce Hannah to the ducking world soon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I know she would love that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Like, it's really is inspiring, and like for someone that's out there struggling, like they know too, like, all right, this kid did it, I can do it.
Yeah, I really hope so. That really is like a huge part of that actually exactly. I mean, yeah, I should have said that, but that's exactly a reason that I really feel like it's important. It's actually the right thing to do to like authentically like share these kind of things that, yeah, I mean, Otherwise, like, people just feel like they're the only ones in the world like going through this.
Right.
In actuality, it's like there's such a common humanity, you know. So
Yeah. And I think if we can get the shame away from it, we can probably
Yeah.
help a lot more people.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ollie. Thank you all for listening. And I hope you can go find some joy for yourself today. I love you.